What is up, everybody? It is Lucas Tracy MMA, and this is your 295 recap show for UFC 295. We're about a day and a half removed from the event, and I'm going to go over every single one of the fighters that fought on the card. We're going to talk about what's next. We're going to talk about the guys that impressed me and the guys that, well, not so much. All right, and of course, this show is brought to you by Lucas T Fitness, where there's a will, there's a way. And you're going to have to get out the way because everyone that bought that Lucas T Fitness cookbook's coming down the tracks, and you're going to have to get out the way. All right, so guys, check out the Real Food Cookbook. It'll burst that energy through the roof. It'll have you bouncing off the walls, and most importantly, it'll allow you to eat your tasty comfort foods from around the world just with whole and unprocessed ingredients. But guys, without further ado, let's get into the show on this Monday. By the way, I just received my digital wall clock, and we finally have a fight timer. We are taking the production to the next level. I have a couple of new lights as well. As you see, I cleaned the background, but let's get on to the first one. The first fight that we saw was Jamall Emmers and Bazooka Joe. So let's get into this, guys. The timestamps should be in the description. So, yeah. Here we go, guys. Let's do it. I don't know what the hell's going on. Okay, here we are. I would like to do the... Oh, okay, this is the better view. Guys, forgive me, just figuring this one out, but we're going to do a live stream later. We're almost at 50K. Dennis Bazooka versus Jamall Emmers. Guys, I think it's time to cut Bazooka Joe. And I don't know what's going on with these Serra-Longo guys, but they've just really been having a rough go this year. I know Matt Frevola had that great win over Drew Dober. Aljamain Sterling had himself a good win over Henry Cejudo, but as of late, these guys have just been getting destroyed. The only guy that's right now on a run is Merab Dvalishvili, but Dennis Bazooka, I said this going into this fight, and I got this fight right. I got 8 out of 11 fights correct on the card. I said he was mid. I said there was really nothing to see here. The only thing that I would expect is that classic Serra-Longo pace. And Jamall Emmers flattened him out in the first round. I just rewatched the fight. Beautiful shot from Jamall Emmers. Right hand down the pipe. Jamall Emmers really making a statement, man. This guy's young. He's hungry. The young whippersnapper, only 30, 40 years old. What's next for Jamall Emmers? I don't know, but I'll definitely be watching his next fight. He seems to be finding a groove at the latter half of his career. I'm just joking. He's not a young guy. Dennis Bazooka, I don't think he's that good. He's mediocre. He has arm punches. That there's really nothing to see here. And when you're getting flattened out like that in the first minute against Jamall Emmers, and make no mistake, Jamall Emmers is a good fighter, but he's not that great. You know, there's a time to reflect on your career, and that's sad because Dennis Bazooka got a win off of the Dana White Contender Series and got destroyed by Sean Woodson, got dominated, got smoked, and now he's getting knocked out in the first round by Jamall Emmers. That's got to suck, man. Imagine, and this guy trains out of New York. Imagine your family, your friends are there to watch you, and you get brutally knocked out in the first minute on the first fight of the night. That sucks. You know, like these are the kinds of things that happen to a lot of guys that make it to the UFC. They never get past the first couple of tests. Then they get cut from the roster, and then it's like, all right, now I got to find something else to do. And I'm afraid that that's what Bazooka Joe might have next. It sucks, man, but you know, some guys, they're just not really there. They're not really there with the elite level, and that's okay. Let's get on to the next fight, though. Joshua Van, Kevin Borjas. Let's talk, man. I picked Joshua Van to get this one done. Kevin Borjas impressed me, and I got a little worried while watching this fight. I was watching the first round. Joshua Van was doing his thing. I was saying, dude, Is Kevin Borjas trolling us right now? I mean, he's hardly doing anything. He's just kind of sitting back. He looks like trash. He's not finding his range. And then all of a sudden he explodes. He goes 0 to 100 and he knocks Joshua Van down. And I'm thinking to myself, oh shit, Joshua Van's got to win the next 2 rounds clearly in order to get this one done. The 21-year-old Joshua Van not only decisively wins the next 2 rounds, but puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the 4 years his senior Kevin Borjas. And not only pressure, but work the body like I've never seen before. Some of the best body shots in MMA right now. I mean, the guy got close to breaking the record. He had Joe Rogan, and he had the guys on the commentary booth saying, man, he's almost there. He's almost there. Joshua Van, I had him in my prospects video. I've been telling you guys about this guy, and he wasn't even showing the same kind of skills in his arsenal that he showed in his first UFC fight that impressed me so much. I think this guy threw like 1 or 2 head kicks max in this fight. That's one of his best weapons. He hardly even showed it here. And the cardio is off the charts. The power, it's like, this guy could use a little bit more pop in his hands. He's still young, but I'm loving the pace that this guy can set. As I said, the takedown defense is there. Stuffed all of Kevin Borjas' takedowns. Made a couple of mistakes, though. I'm just remembering he made a couple of mistakes, and that is going for a couple of flashy slam takedowns, and instead of opting for the control, he was gunning for these flashy submissions, the ankle locks and the heel hooks, right? The twisters. I mean, if Joshua Van was out here trying to play twister with Kevin Borjas, and it wasn't the best look, dude. But I think he'll learn from those mistakes. Again, it's like you make those mistakes with the wrong guy, you're going to end up on bottom with a jiu-jitsu expert, someone that's actually very dangerous in the flyweight division. But the striking is there. 21 years old. Incredible performance from Joshua Van. The fact that he lost the first round, got knocked down, got woken up, kept his composure, and still imposed his will. Imposing the will was the key here for Joshua Van. Walking this guy down, had a difficult time finding the range, finding the head, so he went to the body. Beautiful performance. Be on the lookout for Joshua Van. Kyung Ho Kang, John Castaneda, boring fight. The third round was entertaining, but I'm just going to say this. It's like the first couple of rounds of a 3-round prelim fight always sets the rhythm. You could have the best third round of all time. If the first couple of rounds on the prelims suck, that sets the tone. And by the third round where it started to heat up, when John Castaneda went going, I don't know. I was tuned out. This is probably my least favorite fight on the card. Kyung Ho Kang, I was saying this on my live stream. I know it might sound a little bit rough, but he is like the typical NPC floating out there doing a whole lot of nothing. John Castaneda, he looked okay, but just okay. There's not a whole lot to talk about there. Jared Gordon versus Mark Madsen. Another pick that I got right on this card. The only fight that I didn't predict on this card was John Castaneda and Kyung Ho Kang. That's the only one. So far, if we're looking at what I was doing with, what I was rocking with, man, I was 3-0 at this point because I picked Jared Gordon. Mark Madsen's the geriatric. Now, he was doing well early on. He was putting a ton of pressure on Jared Gordon. It's just that Jared Gordon's takedown defense has improved massively, and that's a big part of why I picked him, because he actually put up a great fight against Grant Dawson, who's the younger guy who has really good takedown entries, and Jared Gordon gave him a much tougher fight than Mark Madsen, who I think got submitted in the second round. And Madsen's chin is very suspicious, man. I know Jared Gordon was coming off that headbutt loss, but his chin looked decent. Someone said this in the comment section, and it is kind of true, because the fight itself was pretty sloppy. It was like two old men that had lost their chins were going at it. Every single shot that landed in the clinch had these guys stumbling around a little bit. It was like we were watching two guys fight in a dream. You know, when you can't really get your power punches off and you're not fast in a dream. That's kind of what it looked like, but Jared Gordon gets it done. First round KO in the Garden, in his home city. Inspirational guy. I mean, he's really turned his life around, and I'm happy I picked Jared Gordon because, as I've been saying, guys, he's pretty decent on the feet. He's pretty good in the pocket. He's got good hands, and he is really getting better from fight to fight. He was about to beat Bobby Green, honestly. I mean, I know it was only one round, but it looked like he was on a one-way path to beating Bobby Green with a perfect game plan. Mark Madsen, I think this is it. I think the jig is up. I think Mark Madsen at this point, it's kind of tough to call him a fraud just because he's an older man, but it just goes to show just because you have these credentials in another sport does not necessarily mean you're going to be that guy in MMA. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to get into Henry Cejudo right now, but really good win for Jared Gordon. Another fight that I got, I didn't get this one right because it was a draw. Perfect score. I was terrified for Slava Claus in this fight. Slava Claus versus Nazim Sadikov. Now, here's the thing about Nazim. He actually did look decent, okay? His striking looked pretty good, but I knew going into this he was going to be at a disadvantage over against Slava Claus Borshev, who's got some of the best boxing in MMA. This guy's hands, dude, they're so underrated. He's got such fast hands. He's got decent power. But what is going on with this guy's chin, man? I swear, dude, he's got a little bit of a suspicious chin. Yes, he was caught with a head kick, but I swear he was caught with something before the head kick. Overall, Vyacheslav Borshev won the first round. He won the third round, almost got finished in the second. People have brought this up, but I feel like Jiri needed the chance that Vyacheslav Borshev had, because Borshev, he got dropped badly with a head kick. It was like he looked like Sergei Pavlovich falling down after the head kick that Nazim Sadikov hit him with. And he still got some follow-up shots to the jaw as well from Nazim. And he was given a chance. There was like a minute left in the round. He survived. He worked his way back into the fight, edged out the third round. A lot of people were crying robbery. They're just the people that don't really know how to score a fight, and they get too caught up into the big moment where he gets dropped in the second. But, I wasn't upset with the score. I don't really know whether or not this was a dub for me or a loss for me. I mean, it was a draw. I mean, you could give me the win since he won 2 out of 3 rounds, right? Maybe. But I'm going to say that's going to be in the draw column. Don't really know what's next for these guys. Nazim has looked okay in his last couple of fights. I still think that Slaviklaus looked like the better guy out there for the most part. It's not like Nazim was able to just take this guy down and control him. He got him down a couple of times, but really wasn't able to do anything with it. And I think that proved that Vyacheslav has worked on his takedown defense and has gotten a little bit better with his grappling. I can't be the only one that was more impressed with Slaviklaus in this fight, especially since he was able to come back from that adversity and win the third round. Whereas Nazim, let's be honest, dude. Yeah, he put up a tough fight in the second and third, but it just looked like outside of the last couple of minutes in that second round, he was out of it a little bit. Like, he wasn't ahead, he was behind, and he's got really good kicks. That was my takeaway. Nazim Sadikov has sneaky kicks. He can kick from both stances, really good head kicks. That's what surprised me the most. But, yeah, I'm not going to sleep on Slaviklaus. I know he got dropped badly. He did take a lot of damage, but that dude's striking is ridiculous, man. He's got really crisp striking, some of the best hands that I've seen in a while. Mateusz Rebecki, Roosevelt Roberts. Now, this is a tough one for Roosevelt Roberts because this was his first fight back off of tough. And it's like, this is a very similar situation with Kevin Lee. I know, well, actually, Kevin Lee was a little bit worse, right? You have Roosevelt Roberts coming back into the UFC. He got cut after getting brutally knocked out with that spinning heel kick from Bahamondes. Got a couple of wins on tough. And the first fight back is against Mateusz Rebecki, the 3-0, almost undefeated Polish guy that is built like a tank. He's like the 155-pound Volkanovski. He's a beast, and he's got a submission game. It's like this guy can finish the fight anywhere. And I know that a lot of people were actually considering picking Roosevelt Roberts because of his reach advantage and his height advantage. But I rewatched Mateusz Rebecki's fights, and I just saw that this guy fights perfectly for someone that would have a massive disadvantage in reach. And I knew he was going to push Roosevelt Roberts up against the fence. And I picked him to win this one by a first-round TKO or submission, and he got it done. First-round TKO and submission. I mean, he got the submission. He armbarred Roosevelt Roberts, man. Mateusz Rebecki is the real deal. I'm telling you guys right now, the first thought that I had is this guy beats Mateusz Gamrot. I mean it. I think Mateusz Rebecki smokes Mateusz Gamrot straight up, like he does. Who the fuck is stopping this guy outside of the top 8? You know what I mean? I think this guy is on the Benoit St-Denis level. You know what? I wouldn't mind seeing him versus Benoit St-Denis, but this is actually one of those circumstances that I usually hate on. I usually can't stand when the UFC matches up the up-and-coming guys with older people that are on a slight decline, that are still all right, but on a slight decline. I'm not a fan of that. But I do think that we need to build up Mateusz Rebecki and we need to build up Benoit St-Denis a little bit. So maybe give Mateusz Rebecki like Drew Dober, or maybe give him Matt Frevola. But this guy's been dominating everyone in his path, finishing them with ease. He's a nasty striker. He's got big, powerful low kicks. He's got the submission game. I think this guy would take a big dump on Mateusz Gamrot. I really do. So let's do Mateusz Rebecki versus Dober or Frevola. I think that would really be fitting. And Roosevelt Roberts, it's like, dude, this what the fuck? Like, why did the UFC give him such a hard test? And why would he accept such a hard test on short notice? Maybe he didn't watch any Mateusz Rebecki. Maybe he didn't know who he was, and he just looked at the stats and maybe just looked at the record and saw that this guy had T-Rex arms and wanted to get in there and prove something. But this fight was made the week of the card, and it was a horrible decision from Roosevelt Roberts. I don't know who's managing him, but it was a horrible decision. Maybe he needed the money, but, this is pretty bad. Pretty bad that the UFC would even... I mean, I honestly think this one is on Roosevelt Roberts. The Kevin Lee one, The Kevin Lee one against Renat Fakhretdinov, that was unacceptable. That was diabolical, what they did to Kevin Lee, giving him Renat Fakhretdinov after a multiple-year layoff, after he had gotten embarrassed against Charles Oliveira. And again, who else did he lose to? Daniel Rodriguez. I think he lost to D-Rod, and then he came back and fought Renat. Like, horrible decision-making from everyone involved there. But yeah, it's not like Roosevelt Roberts has earned his stripes in the UFC enough for me to be upset at this. You know, I think that was really his fault that he took this fight. Should have done his research. Lupi Gudinez, tap at the Richie. I picked Lupi Gudinez, another win pick for me. So let's see, how many fights correct would that be on this card? We got 1, 2, 3, the draw, 4, and 5. So it's like, 5 picks right. So far on the night, I was undefeated. I got Lupi Gudinez. She's on a tear. She's been fighting a lot this year. I call her the female Michael Chandler. A lot of people buying into that Tap at the Richie hype because she's big, she's strong, she's a Brazilian. But at the end of the day, when you get down to the nitty-gritty, she does kind of just fight like the average strong WMMA fighter. And Lupi Gudinez kind of fights like a female Michael Chandler. She's one of those very few that fights like a guy, right? Very explosive. Future champ, I don't know. I mean, you never know with WMMA. These people could get a decision robbery loss, right? They could win a decision that's a robbery, to someone that's outside the rankings, and they'll get a bump up to a title shot in their next fight and dominate the champ. You never fucking know when it comes to WMMA. But let's get on to the next one. Steve Erceg versus Alessandro Costa. You should have seen all the flack I got for saying that Steve Erceg, okay, was being severely overrated going into this fight with Alessandro Costa. Now, I got this pick wrong. This was the first fight I got wrong on the card. One of the only fights I got wrong on the card. But it was close. And even though I got it wrong, everyone in my chat was telling me, you know what, Lucas? You were right. You were right. I'm telling you right now, bro. I got a knack for figuring out whether or not someone's overrated or underrated on the come up, okay? Sometimes I get it wrong. Okay? I got it right this time. I was saying Steve Erceg was good, but he's got the bare minimum skill set at flyweight. I don't understand. I was saying this, like, sure, he beat David Dvorak. People were acting like I didn't know who the fuck David Dvorak was. I know David Dvorak. I was just saying that he's overrated. There's like 25 people in the flyweight division. It's not that hard to be ranked. Tatsudo Taira got ranked after 3 fucking wins. This is the thing about flyweight, man. Steve Erceg can go in there and get a pitter-pat decision over David Dvorak. Hey, I know we knocked him down. But my question to you is, why are we pulling our hair out for David Dvorak? He's not that good. He isn't. Steve Erceg has the bare minimum skill set of flyweight. Sure, he's well-rounded. I understand that. I just don't get the hype. Like, when I watch someone like Joshua Van, I'm thoroughly impressed. I can see this guy marching someone down. I can see a method to the madness. I could see him rip into the body. I see beautiful, slick head kicks, right? Fast hands. When I watch someone like Felipe Dos Santos that tested Manel Kape, I know some people were saying, whoa, this, spamming a spinning back fist, so impressive. Like, this guy arguably won rounds against Manel Kape and had a war with him, like a high output war. He was landing left and right. He was landing more than Manel Kape was. The only difference was Manel Kape was landing harder. And then I watched Steve Erceg face David Dvorak, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, he's good, but like, I don't get all the hype. And you know what it was? It was all the Aussies in my comment section. A guy made a whole 15-minute video crying about the fact that I said Steve Erceg wasn't that good. You know what I mean? Like, it's the Aussies. And you know what? I'll give it to them. They really ride for their guys. They are going to root for their guys no matter what. But you guys were overrating him to oblivion. He looked mid as fuck. All right? Steve Erceg looked extremely mediocre in this fight. He was supposed to fucking bulldoze this guy. I picked Alessandro Costa because he had the power, he had heavy low kicks, and in my opinion, he should have shot more takedowns because I actually do think he's the superior grappler. So I'm so happy that Steve Erceg kind of just got exposed as just being good. He's all right. I know some people are going to really get pissed off and the Aussies are going to be fucking pulling out their fucking hair. So I'm saying Steve Erceg isn't that good. Relax, all right? Relax. He's pretty mediocre. Let's get on to the next fight. Fucking hell, Steve Erceg. If I have to hear about this guy one more time, The amount of people that were saying he's really, really good. I could have been a billionaire if I counted them all up. It's like you guys choose the most random people to hype up. It honestly, like, it pisses me off sometimes. I understand if you're Aussie. I get it. But, like, listen, the Aussie scene is not like the end-all, be-all. Steve Erceg getting a couple of good wins on the Aussie scene doesn't mean this guy's a future champ, okay? Let's chill out for a second. Thank you. Diego Lopes versus Pat Sabatini. I picked Diego Lopes to fucking bulldoze this guy. Now I'm getting pissed off. Listen, man. The same thing. Going into this fight, I heard a lot of people saying, you know what, this is actually a pretty tough test for Diego Lopes. And I was saying to myself, dude, Pat Sabatini is the size of a bantamweight, and Diego Lopes is one of the biggest featherweights on the roster. This guy is a Charles Oliveira reincarnate in the featherweight division. Like, he has got the same exact build. He's got the same vibe. He's Brazilian. He's got the same stance, the same style, the Muay Thai style, wicked kicks, really good uppercuts, dirty boxing. There was one of those uppercuts in the clinch or off the break of a clinch that he used to rock Pat Sabatini, and he finishes him like it's nothing, dude. That looked like the Charles Oliveira finish that he had over a couple of guys on the come-up, man. Like that Charles Oliveira finish he got over Jared Gordon. That was a little bit more vicious, but Diego Lopes just fucking bulldozed this guy. And the reason why I was so confident in Lopes to win this fight is just because of the eye test, dude. Like, I've watched Pat Sabatini take people to slow, scrape him out decisions. Yeah, just going to control this guy for a round. Just going to ride this guy out and control him. And people, hardcore fans pull their hair out and say, whoa, Pat Sabatini, man. He can control people on the ground. And then I watched Diego Lopes, and he's breaking people's faces. You know what I mean? He's like making Movsar Evloev panic shoot takedowns. He's putting Evloev in a world of trouble on the ground, right? Pat Sabatini took Diego Lopez's last opponent to a decision, all right? Diego Lopes armbarred him in the first round, like within the first exchange on the ground, right off the rip. And I was just thinking, like, another time where MMA fans are just looking a little bit too deeply into this. Sometimes you just got to use the eye test. One guy is tearing through people that are on the same level and styling on them, okay? That's massive for the division. The other guy looks like he's a bantamweight. I know he's big and muscular, but, he's muscular, but he's not big, right? Diego Lopes was fucking dwarfing him out there, and he runs through him. Again, Charles Oliveira vibes when I watch this guy. Stands like him, doesn't really look like him, but you guys get the vibe. Brazilian, same stance, Muay Thai style, wicked submission game, flashy on the ground. And people just love this guy. I don't know what it is, but people just love this guy. I mean, it's got to just be the performances. He's got a swagger about him too. Diego Lopes is next up in the featherweight division. I think this guy has a shitload of potential, and I'd like to see him fight maybe like a Dan Ige or a Sadiq Youssef. Like, let's stop babying these guys. We're going to talk about babying people in the next fight. Benoit St-Denis, Matt Frevola. I'm sick and tired of these guys having to prove, 5, 6, 7 times that they are people that deserve to fight a ranked opponent. Like, let's get this guy a chance. He is bullying people within the matter of minutes in this division. Let's give him a ranked opponent once again. He's got 2 unranked wins since testing Movsar Evloev. Let's give him another crack at the rankings. As I said, Sadiq Youssef or someone like Dan Ige. I think those would be good tests. Speaking of someone that I want to get a big bump up in competition, Benoit St-Denis butchers Matt Frevola in the first round. I think Benoit St-Denis is one of my favorite fighters now. And when I say favorites, like, he's been one of my favorite fighters. I'm just saying I think this guy's like top 3. All right, I'm actually really invested in Benoit St-Denis' career at this point because you know how it is when you're one of the first people to really get behind a prospect, and I'm not French, right? So I wasn't rooting for this guy from the get-go. I wasn't hyped on his first ever fight when he fought the guy that was sauced up to the gills, and I wasn't really that hyped when he was fighting on the Cyril Gane and Tai Tuivasa Paris card, but he caught my eye on that, and I really gave this guy a good chance to beat Bonfim, and he went out there and smoked him, dude. And this guy's on a tear. I think it's a 5-fight finish streak. And every single one of these fights is like submission, TKO, submission, TKO, now another TKO. And I think the people that were picking Matt Frevola weren't looking into the Thiago Moises fight close enough. Like, I understand that he got hit by Thiago. There's this one instance where Thiago unloads a massive right hook on the chin of Benoit St-Denis, who had one whole side of his face exposed, and he didn't get rocked by it, but he caught him flush. And I could see why people would pick Matt Frevola, but there was literally a 30-second moment where Benoit was scrapping with Thiago Moises. Watch that fight back. Watch the second round, dude. There was no scrap. There was no scrap at all. He cut through him like butter. He completely dominated him and just broke him pillar to post. I know people clown on me for using that term all the time, but really watch that second round. He's got Thiago Moises up against the fence, and he just starts battering him. And Thiago Moises is on his knees, and he starts crouching down slower, lower and lower until the referee had to step in because he had basically wilted. And yes, I didn't think Benoit St-Denis was going to get it done that early by the one-shot head kick in which he got it done. But I really do think it was a matter of time before he would have went out there and fucking broke Matt Frevola. And I picked Benoit St-Denis by a TKO up against the fence. And he got it up against the fence. Frevola was doing all right. But, man, Matt Frevola, he's not the same kind of fighter. I get it, dude. I get it. He knocked out Drew Dober. Like, I totally understand that. He's knocked out a couple of guys before Drew Dober. But he's someone that's been chinned in the past, dude. And Benoit St-Denis is just the more well-rounded guy. He said in his post-fight interview, like, he was allowing Matt Frevola to take him down, to expend a little bit of energy, to be able to sweep him as well. He was looking to sweep him to get on top. And that's another really impressive aspect about Benoit St-Denis' game. It's that the grappling is extremely good, man. He's a black belt in judo. Every single time he gets taken down, he's able to sweep people and get right back up to his feet. And when he gets a dominant position on top of guys, he dominates them. And now we see him fucking blast through Matt Frevola with a nasty head kick. I was going crazy when that happened, dude. It has to suck for Matt Frevola getting brutally knocked out in front of his hometown, his family, his friends in New York, especially on Veterans Day. I love the show of respect that they had. They both saluted each other. Tons of love and respect between both of these guys. But you just have to look at this guy's performances, man. You have to look at them. First couple minute head kick KO against Matt Frevola, completely mogging Thiago Moises. And I know it's Thiago Moises. I get it. He's not that good, but he's around the same level as Matt Frevola. Matt Frevola is better than Thiago Moises. Make no mistake about it. He's better than him. But when I say around the same level, Moises is one of those guys. It's like, you know, the 18 to 25 guy in the division. Matt Frevola's right outside the top 15. Matt Frevola was actually ranked here, but for a long time, he's been right outside of that top 15, knocking motherfuckers out. Right? Like the up-and-coming Drew Dober. But Benoit St-Denis cut through Thiago Moises like nothing I've ever seen. Islam Makhachev took Moises 4 rounds. You know what I mean? Islam Makhachev on the come-up. We're not even talking about Benoit being close to his prime. He's 27, 28 years old. What did Beneil Dariush do to Thiago Moises? Yeah, he controlled him and he won every round, but it was a boring fight. He controlled him and just kind of laid on his back and laid on top of him and whatnot. Dude, Benoit St-Denis is just blowing these guys out of the water. It's time to give him a bump up in competition. I'm done with him fighting people outside the rankings. He just beat someone that is ranked number 14. So it's ironic to say that because it doesn't really feel like Matt Frevola is a ranked guy. That's usually how it is when someone beats the number 15 or the number 14. It still kind of feels like the right outside of the rankings. I don't want to see him go down. I don't want to see him fight anyone at that level. Let's give him a bump up. I'm not saying give him someone like Rafael Fiziev, even though that would be a fun fight. Fiziev's going to be out for a while. He's not going to fight Justin Gaethje. As much as that would be cool, that's too big of a bump up. The UFC's not going to give him Justin Gaethje. The UFC, man, if they give him Dustin Poirier, I'd be super hyped for that, but I doubt they're going to do that. Listen, the only 2 people that are available right now that don't have a fight, I don't want to see him fight Drew Dober. I'm done with the Drew Dobers. I'm done with the Matt Frevolas, okay? I'm done with the fucking Thiago Moiseses. He's proved that he's good enough to be a solid ranked guy at this point. Give him Jalen Turner, okay? At the very least, Renato Moicano, but I think he would run through Renato Moicano. I know people are going to say, oh, but Renato and Jalen are fighting. Like, no, they're not. People have been saying they're going to fight for the past 4 or 5 months. You know what I mean? Like, that fight's not happening. Benoit St-Denis, Jalen Turner, make it happen. And I'm sure Benoit wants to stay active, okay? Because how many times has he fought this year? 3 times. He fought Bonfim this year. Let's see, who else did he fight? He fought Thiago Moises in France. Now he's just fought Matt Frevola and fucking chinned him, dude. This guy's a savage, man. He's one of the most entertaining fighters in the game. And I really do think this guy has what it takes to be a champion. I'm looking at the performances, man. I'm looking at the performances. I'm looking at the well-roundedness. I'm looking at the pace, dude. We didn't even get to see him push a pace again like he did last time. And Matt Frevola is a tough man to knock out. Like, I know he doesn't have the best chin, but just getting the better of this guy in a scrap, it's very impressive. So I'm happy I picked Benoit St-Denis. Bro, people clown me for my picks, and I don't mean to toot my own horn again, but, like, look at all these fuckers that I'm getting right, man. Matt Frevola, Benoit St-Denis. I got the Diego Lopes one right. So up until now, dude, I was pretty much undefeated other than the Steve Erceg one. And I'm going to take that one as I told you so anyway. So let's get on to the next one. Benoit St-Denis, once again, showing an incredibly well-rounded skill set. So you got to be on the lookout. If you're not a Benoit St-Denis fan, you better be now. And I really do think that this guy will be fighting for a belt in the future. 27 years old, man. Let that sink in. 27. And he probably beat a better version of Thiago Moises than Beneil Dariush and Islam Makhachev. And he just fucking ran through him. You know? I get it. It's Thiago Moises, but come on. I'm done with the Dobers. Okay? That's the moral of the story. I'm done with the Dobers. I'm done with the people around the 14 to 17 spot. No. Bump them up. Bump them up. Jessica Andrade versus Mackenzie Dern. I got this one wrong. Mackenzie Dern. You know, listen, man, she doesn't look too good when she's throwing her hands. I'll tell you that much. Jessica Andrade gets it done. Good for Jessica Andrade. It looks like she actually showed up to fight this time. Now, it's strawweight. I was really confused about the division. I'm usually confused about what division is this unless it's a championship fight. It looks like Jessica Andrade is back in her natural weight class where she is a similar size. Honestly, I was shocked to see how small Mackenzie Dern looked out there in comparison to Jessica Andrade. Usually Andrade is like the one that's just getting towered over by all of her opponents, even though she's still pretty stocky and strong. Mackenzie Dern was like the same height, man. I didn't know how small she was. So good win for Jessica Andrade. Mackenzie Dern, horrible fight IQ, not shooting takedowns. But you know what? A really fun fight. Dude, I can't believe how good this card was. We're going to be talking about this card for a long time, guys. I'm just going to bring that up right now. Jiri Prochazka, Alex Pereira. Okay? Alex Pereira is already a UFC legend. Tom Aspinall, Sergei Pavlovich. Both of these guys can go on to be heavyweight legends. And Tom Aspinall, I made a whole video about him yesterday. I made two. This guy could literally go on to be the heavyweight GOAT. Andrade, Mackenzie Dern, the one WMMA fight. You know how it is when you just got done with Matt Frevola, Benoit St-Denis, Diego Lopes, Pat Sabatini, and you're saying, oh, yes, dude, this is so hype. I always say I hate how they kill the vibe with the WMMA fight. Everyone's energy dips, but I actually know why they do it. Because I remember I was screaming so much when Benoit St-Denis knocked out Matt Frevola. I had almost lost my voice, and it was kind of nice to get to rejuvenate my energy, to get to replenish it. Now, I didn't have time to make one of the Real Food Cookbook meals to really replenish it, but you guys know that, you know, you're not really going to be screaming and jumping out of your chair when Mackenzie Dern's walking out, unless you're, you know, a fucking simp. But listen, dude. I kind of like the dip of energy, and it turned out to be a great fight. Lots of knockdowns. Matt Frevola, Benoit St-Denis. Dude, Benoit St-Denis could go on to be a UFC legend. Like, this guy could be, like, the best French fighter to ever do it when it's all said and done. I know GSP's French-Canadian. I get it. But you know what I mean? Like, French-born fighter. And then we have Diego Lopes, Pat Sabatini. Dude, Diego could go on to be a champ. This guy could go on to have, like, a fucking Charles Oliveira-esque run. I can't believe all of these guys were on the card. Amazing card. And then we're at Tom Aspinall and Sergei Pavlovich. I already recapped this. I've already talked about it. The fact that Aspinall made Pavlovich look that easy. I picked Tom Aspinall. Another pick that I got right. I think on the entire night, I went like 9-11 or 8-11, I think, because if we're going to count the draw, I understand why that's 8-11, 8 out of 11, with one being a draw. So out of 12 fights, I got 8 right. I got 3 wrong. So that was the Jiri Prochazka, Alex Pereira one wrong. The Jessica Andrade, Mackenzie Dern one wrong, which is a WMMA fight wrong. So, like, who really cares? And then the Steve Erceg one wrong. But I kind of got the moral victory on that one because I felt like I was leading the charge for the Steve Erceg guy being severely overrated just because people want to be super hardcore. Or shout out to the Aussies. They're riding for their guy. I totally understand it, but you guys, let's relax now. Yo, fucking hell, man. This is a good show. I'm liking the recap show so far, guys. I'm liking the recap show so far. Tom Aspinall, again, running through Sergei Pavlovich in a minute. All right, I'm going to talk about the things that I didn't really mention in my last video, but it didn't feel like Sergei Pavlovich was capable of losing when he walked out. Like, I know Jiri Prochazka's walkout was epic and Pereira's walkout was epic. Tom Aspinall walked out to this super chill music, and I was saying to the chat, like, oh, no, dude, it just feels like he's going to lose. Like, I was getting the Grant Dawson vibe when Dawson walked out to that really weird song. And it wasn't a weird song. It wasn't a horrible song. It was not hype at all, man. And then Sergei Pavlovich came out to this fucking epic Russian rock music, dude. Like heavy metal Russian rock. Stoic face, ice cold, looking massive, looking lean. Tom Aspinall looked a little bit pudgy. And Sergei clips him with that left hook. And it honestly felt like, fuck, man. Like, it's only a matter of time before Aspinall gets knocked the hell out. And he's out there doing his thing. He's slipping punches. Sergei only threw like 4 punches overall. And he was kicking and he was jabbing. And I was saying leading up to this fight, he's going to be kicking to bide his time, looking for an entry on the takedown. No takedown at all needed. And then he just blasts Sergei Pavlovich with the right hand straight down the pipe while Sergei Pavlovich is throwing a hook. He beats Sergei Pavlovich to the punch. You know, as the Weasel said, straight punches beat looping punches. And Aspinall pulls back and throws another 1-2 down the pipe. And we see Sergei wobbling around, falling back. Surreal moment to see Sergei Pavlovich midair falling down after getting his head clattered around by Tom Aspinall, 265 pounds, extremely fast. And he knocks him the fuck out with these brutal hammer fists. And again, I know Sergei Pavlovich is tough and people are going to cope and say, man, Sergei could have, it's just whoever lands the punch first, man. It's not a big deal. It's Tom happened to land first, man. Have you heard this take, guys? Have you heard that take? Oh, wow, Tom got lucky. It was just whoever landed first, man. Congrats, bro. You landed first to heavyweight, bro. Like, Sergei Pavlovich landed a clean left hook right on the jaw of Tom Aspinall that got his freaking mouthpiece toppling around. So whoever lands first thing is total horseshit. Tom Aspinall got hit first. He got clipped big time. And he ate it like a Tic Tac. And then he just blitzkrieg Sergei. What the fuck? Like, I still can't believe it. It was such a crazy moment. It was an unbelievable moment. And Aspinall just runs off, dude, as the fucking real champ. Sergei Pavlovich just lost a little bit of that aura that he had, that, like, intimidating, ice-cold aura. He's still an intimidating guy. He's still going to be knocking a lot of people out. But it's like, as I said, one of those movies, you know, this is so stupid, but I'm making the dumbest analogies these days. I don't even know if I want to say it, dude. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. All right. Let's just say it, man. It's like the Sponge. All right, yo, fuck it. It's like the SpongeBob movie where Patrick and SpongeBob, yo, I can't even take myself seriously when saying this, but they're off to do something in this movie. I was like the one that came out in the early 2000s, and there's this monster that's like giving them issues, and that just gets fucking stomped by something else. And it was like Sergei Pavlovich was the scary monster, and Tom Aspinall came out of the fucking water and ate that monster. And, well, it's like, all right, the first monster ain't that scary anymore. Sergei Pavlovich lost a little bit of that killer aura that he had because Tom Aspinall made him look so unbelievably easy. Tom Aspinall makes me feel like I'm a Brit. Honestly, bro. Like, when this guy's out there fighting, you feel like a fucking honorary Brit while watching him, dude. He brings the football energy, right? I feel like I'm at an Arsenal game. I feel like I'm at a Liverpool game watching Tom Aspinall, right? Rooting for Tom Aspinall. Sucks for Sergei Pavlovich, though. You know what I mean? Like, when a guy that's scary gets brutally knocked out and loses a little bit of that aura, it really does suck for them. So I hope he's able to turn this one around. Yeah, it'd be cool to see a rematch down the line, but after what Tom Aspinall just did to him, and he didn't even show half of his game, which is the grappling, which could have been a nightmare for Sergei. It's like, do we really want Sergei Pavlovich to get in there anytime soon with Aspinall? Like, I'd like to see him work on his game a little bit and just improve Because imagine if he gets done like that twice. Yeah, people were saying I'm glazing Aspinall. I'm not glazing Aspinall. I'm just very impressed. Like, I've never seen a heavyweight look this good. I've watched all of Stipe Miocic's title fights. I've seen Stipe in his prime, bro. Okay? Stipe was never like this. Stipe wasn't moving like this, man. And I just don't think it's that controversial to say that this is probably the most skilled heavyweight we've ever seen. So let's get on to the next one. Jiri Prochazka, Alex Pereira. Of course, you guys know me. I am allergic to getting main events right unless it's Volkanovski. And of course, Volkanovski, I'm picking him to lose sometimes. So he's getting head kick KO'd and I'm getting it right, which just means that I'm not fully able to enjoy it. But Alex Pereira gets the job done, and it's really now settling in how accomplished Alex Pereira is in MMA, being a 2-division champion after coming over from kickboxing. It's like, man, the kickboxers, if anything, have a harder time acclimating to mixed martial arts than the wrestlers. Like, there have been so many wrestling champs that have come out of a high level of wrestling, right? And Alex Pereira, it's even more impressive that he transitioned over to MMA in his like early to mid 30s, which is insane. And now he's a double champion, and he's right on the doorsteps of surpassing Adesanya completely when it comes to resume. And I totally understand a lot of people are going to say, what are you saying? He's already past Izzy, man. I get it. Like, there's a contempt for Izzy. There's people really don't like Izzy, and I don't like Izzy at all, but they're 1-1. Like, I understand, like, he beat Izzy twice in kickboxing, but when we're just talking about an MMA sense, they're 1-1. So it's not like, all right, well, Pereira's definitely got the better of Adesanya in MMA. But these title wins are amazing, man. Beating Jiri Prochazka, and I know Jiri was coming off of a long layoff, but there's no excuse. There's no excuse, man. He shut down Jiri. Like, I rewatched the fight, bro, and the leg kicks, that was the big issue. Jiri, the first leg kick that landed, like, it hurt him badly. And that really hindered his movement. And that just made him a little bit less explosive, a little bit less fast. Now, I was getting excited in the second round. As I had mentioned, guys, I was getting very excited in that second round when Jiri started landing shots. He started putting together combinations in the center of the octagon, pushing Pereira back. And we saw, as I mentioned going into this fight, Pereira doesn't really retaliate like that. He doesn't have any of these like snapback counters instantly. But then he actually showed a snapback counter up against the cage while Jiri Prochazka was throwing some like looping overhand right, and he gets caught with the right hook into the left hook, lands flush on the tippy tip of his chin, and that was the finish, man. Pereira's leg kicks are unreal, man. They're unreal, and I just cannot doubt this guy anymore. I can't doubt him anymore. Jiri, I will say this, all right, because I need to clarify this statement. The leg kicks definitely made him slow down, for sure. But I can't be the only one that saw this guy looking like an old man when he threw that head kick before he got leg kicked. You know what I mean? That noticed that Yuri's kicks looked a little bit slow. Now, Yuri's the kind of guy that would make it a purpose to not look so fast early on to like catch his opponent off guard. He's one of those guys that could maybe do that, but like he threw a head kick in the opening exchange of that fight that went off the guard of Alex Pereira, and it really did look like he was an old man throwing that head kick. There was no speed to it. It sucks to see Jiri get finished. It sucks to see him lose that fight. He accepts the loss, says that he was out, but here's the thing, man. I can tell Jiri Prochazka was fighting that response, man. He was fighting that out. He was saying the words, I have to accept it, good stoppage, I was out. He was fighting himself on it. He's being humble, man. He's being humble. Jiri knows. Jiri knows deep down inside that shit was early, man. I'm just going to be honest about it. It was a little bit early. It's a championship fight. And Mark Goddard, yet again, an early stoppage in a championship fight. Like, this is the third time it's happened this year. And I was rewatching the MMA Guru's recap for the card because I wanted to know what his take was on this. And it's just like, Mark Goddard has done this so often, and we barely ever see this on any prelim fights. Like, you know, we don't see this a whole lot with, who's the other guy that got dropped with the head kick? That went to a draw. Vyacheslav Borshev. Like, this dude was given every single chance to survive, but in a championship fight, they're just so quick to get in there. And it really does piss me off. Again, I'm not saying it wasn't a clean win. I'm not taking anything away from Alex Pereira, bro. What he did was impressive. As I said, he shut down Jiri. He got the better of him. He did win the first round, in my opinion, with a lot of the damage from the low kicks, and he ended up knocking Jiri down and, like, you know, knocking him out with the elbows too. But he wasn't totally out of it, man. And if there's anyone that could survive that, it's Jiri. Just a couple of more shots, maybe. Just a couple more. You never know. Jiri could have fucking held on to Pereira and pulled him in and just bided time and survived a little bit. Maybe he wouldn't have. But there shouldn't be any questions like this. There shouldn't be a controversy. I think this was way more controversial than Adesanya. Okay, when Adesanya was slumping down and Pereira was teeing off on him, I get the controversy there. But Izzy was literally out on his feet and Pereira was right there in front of him, fully ready to fucking unload knees right into his jaw, right? Jiri Prochazka was flopping all over the place like the inflatable balloon man, but that's how Jiri Prochazka is. Jiri Prochazka always fights like that. You know, Jiri Prochazka's head could be falling off and he'll somehow fucking find a way to pull it off, man. So I just wish there wasn't that controversy. A big part of it is the Jiri fan scoping. Let's be honest. There is some cope coming from this. But Pereira was the better man. Pereira proved that he was the better fighter. And now he's going to fight Jamal Hill. Salty Hill. Bitter Hill, who always seems to have a massive chip on his shoulder. And I think a big part of that is the fact that people don't really respect him as the true champ right now. And I think that that's what it's been for a while, is he almost just feels like everyone writes him off in all of his matchups. You know what I mean? They wrote him off against Glover Teixeira. Remember, he said, "What the fuck they got to say now?" And it was a cool moment, really cool moment. He beat the crap out of Glover. But then it's like, all right, well, Glover was softened up by Jiri. That was a different Glover. And it was. Glover looked horrible in that fight. And Jamal Hill made him look terrible. Jamal Hill had a really clean performance. He had like no adversity in that fight. He got taken down a couple of times and proved us all wrong that he could get right back up to his feet. But he beat up a Glover that wasn't even for like the undisputed. I mean, it was for the undisputed belt, but it was a vacant belt. They took it off of Jiri after Jiri beat Glover. And now Alex Pereira beat Jiri Prochazka, who was the lineal light heavyweight champion. And I know that Alex gets hit, and Jamal Hill is a guy that's got really good defense, and he's got good power, and he's fast. But this is going to be a more by-the-book style that is next for Alex Pereira. It's going to be a more by-the-book style. And I think that Pereira might be able to chew his leg up and slow Jamal Hill down. And Jamal Hill's coming off of an ACL injury, man. How's he going to deal with those leg kicks? I don't think he's going to deal with them well. A long layoff, too. That may not be good for him. So I'm going to go with Alex Pereira to win that fight. I didn't speak about this, but Tom Aspinall and Cyril Gane, another potential matchup that we could see next. Even though Cyril Gane, I think he should fight someone else in the meantime. But Tom Aspinall is going to run through Cyril Gane like nothing. Okay, he's going to run through him like he's nothing. One of the best cards I've ever watched in my life, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Again, I've talked about the stare down. That stare down was better than a movie because it was real life, and the intensity between both Alex Pereira and Jiri Prochazka is probably something that I've never seen before. It was the coolest moment in my entire life as an MMA fan, outside of actual fight highlights, right? A lot of people were saying, you know, what about Conor McGregor saying that the double champ does what the fuck he wants? Or someone saying, what about Mirko Krokop's stare downs? Like, fucking get out of here, man. Stop. Mirko Krokop was a cold motherfucker, dude. He had some cold stare downs. All right, I get it. But it wasn't like Jiri Prochazka and Alex Pereira. Like, it's not the same. It's not the same. Just stop. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time.